Hello, RWorld, and welcome back to another episode of RWorld Talk. We are lucky enough today to have Mr. Ben Porritt with us from Brightline. Ben, thank you so much for being with us.
Chris, glad to be here. Thanks for the time.
Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? Let people know who you are and what you do.
Yeah, listen, I'm probably like everybody else. I don't like talking about myself, but my background is kind of wide ranging, but I spent most of my career in politics and government affairs. So with Brightline, I oversee all of our government affairs and public outreach, public affairs. Been with the company since we started operations in 2018. So just about 5 years.
Okay. So going back to 2018, obviously Brightline came on the scene in South Florida, huge immediate success. And then you guys walked right into COVID. Yeah. So how has Brightline been able to bounce back from that?
As we all did, right? I mean, that was one of those moments where I think all of us will remember this thing creeping up on us starting in January and February. And then March came and bam, it kind of hit us and we weren't really, prepared for it. And that's not just Brightline. That was the whole community. That was the whole country.
Right.
And so, we temporarily shut down, which I think was the right thing. But in many ways, it was good for us. I think it allowed us to do two things. One, on the construction front, we expedited the project, both on the stations that we built here in South Florida and then our extension to Orlando. We never slowed that down at all. We had more than 1,000 construction workers on the job the entire time. It was seen as, a crucial project to the state and certainly job creation. And then when it came to our operations in South Florida, I think what we did is we took a look at how the world was changing and thought, how is this service going to change along with it? And so we were already ahead of the game as it related to station experience and travel experience. I think people felt a level of confidence in coming into our stations, which are cashless, primarily touchless hygiene, and just clean overall, that there was
incredibly clean.
Yeah,
you guys do a great job with that.
It's one of those things where, people just felt a level of confidence in coming back to our stations. And so, it allowed us to kind of take a look at how the world was changing, and we've adapted to that. Brightline is actually, people don't know this, but we're the fastest recovering public transit system in the country.
Oh, wow.
Since COVID. And part of that is because of that experience that I just laid out. That's what people love and people felt confident in. But on top of that, we changed things, and we recognize that the world's not coming back to work 5 days a week. And so we adapted our products and pricing so that, it wasn't a 5 day a week commute. You weren't paying for those days that you weren't using. And so it just allowed us to kind of change the way in which everybody else was changing and make sure that we adapted along with them.
Okay, fantastic. You guys obviously do a really great job. You were talking about the stations here in South Florida. So obviously we've got the Boca Raton station, which has just recently opened. Talking about Boca, what made you pick Boca versus going somewhere like Delray?
Yeah, it wasn't necessarily a market consideration compared to a different market. I think what happened really is once we turned operations on between Miami, Fort Lauderdale, and West Palm Beach, the demand was already there, but we had a number of cities who came to us with plans and said, we want a station in our city. And that was before we even launched the 3 original stations.
Right.
But I would give full credit to Mayor Scott Singer. I mean, he was the one who came to us with a plan, never let no, mean anything to him. And he continued to come back to us and say, we got to have a station here. We got to have a station here. And I would say that he really sold us on the market. I mean, there's some intuitive elements of Boca that make a lot of sense to our service from a community standpoint, a business standpoint. So, from all those perspectives, Boca made a lot of sense. We looked at it more just geographically in the sense that Aventura is directly right in the middle between Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
And then Boca Raton is directly in the middle of Fort Lauderdale and West Palm Beach. And so from that consideration, it made a lot of sense.
Right.
But it was really the driving force of Scott Singer that really kind of pushed us along to get us to the point where this made a lot of sense and we wanted to do it. So
your government affairs background has obviously put you in the right spot to be able to negotiate with the mayors, right?
Yeah, I mean, we had a great team that put that together, but that's a great deal for the community. If you think about it, Brightline is investing over $5 billion into the state of Florida. So for a city like Aventura or Miami-Dade County, and then for Boca Raton to get access to that investment, these are typically projects. If you're looking to build your own rail system, in and around Palm Beach County or Miami-Dade County, it takes hundreds of millions of dollars and decades to plan out.
Right.
And so from a city standpoint, what Boca was able to achieve for the dollar amounts that they spent is really pretty incredible. It should be a case study for how other cities are doing it across the country.
So staying on Boca Raton, was that done with private money or was that public funding?
Combination of both. Okay. So we put up dollars. The city put up dollars, and then the city applied for a federal grant that put in dollars for the station build. So all three of those partners came together to help fund the system and the station in Boca Raton.
Amazing things you could do when you work together.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great example.
Yeah. Talking about realtors, obviously that's basically our main focus here. Realtors, and especially our members, absolutely love using Brightline. Great way to break from the I-95 congestion. But what types of people are you finding that are using the Brightline? Who are your riders? Are they working professionals? Are there any like specific stats or on age or lifestyle that you see more of in the riders on the Brightline?
Yeah, I mean, we look at this a lot. I mean, you definitely have a strong, it's almost a 50-50 mix in some ways between leisure and business travelers. Okay. And I think it's going to stay that way once we get to Orlando. I mean, you're going to have Disney families and international travelers. You know, when you look at the state, you got 20 million people and 130 plus million visitors a year, and they're coming from all over the world. They're all used to rail travel. And we know that what they're looking for to get around the state is an additional form of transportation. They don't necessarily want to rent a car. So they're going to come from Orlando. They're going to travel around South Florida with the ease of this because that's what they're comfortable with in their home country.
Right.
But what we're seeing here, no question, realtors, we're seeing a lot of them. We've had a lot, anecdotally come to me and say, this has allowed us to expand our market. You know, we've opened offices in different cities because of what Brightline has produced.
Sure.
And then lawyers, because our stations are at courthouse to courthouse to courthouse, they have been using our system probably as the early adopters from day one.
Oh, really?
So from a business standpoint, it's those. But I also think like there's a mental side of this, and it's I think anybody who understands the value of their time and using that time productively, they're on the train all the time because they realize that not only is it quicker, faster, and more convenient, but they're billing hours while they're on there. They're working, they're getting things done, they're returning emails, and it just becomes an easier form of getting around. Like when we're sitting in our car, we're stressed out trying to wait to, get to the next destination before we can pick up our computer again.
Yeah, hopefully you're not having your laptop out while you're stuck in traffic on the 95.
I've seen it, though.
I have as well. I wouldn't put anything past people, especially South Florida drivers. My goodness. So you would imagine how crafty realtors can be in selling a home. Brightline can easily come into play with relocating consumers from one part of the state to another, or even commuting from one part of the state to another state. So I'm going to ask you this on behalf of South Florida. When is the Orlando station opening? Because we can no longer wait.
Yeah, no, it's this is the number one question I get from everybody in the community and then inside my own home. So my kids and my wife ask me this all the time. It's a great question. So couple things. One, last week on Thursday, April 20th, we showcased the brand new Orlando station, and It is incredible. 40,000 square feet of meticulous design. It's exactly what you notice with all of our stations here. It's really built through today's modern traveler, and there's everything from outlets and free Wi-Fi and great craft beer and booze and like all of those things that people want.
Right.
But
same things you get in an airport.
Well, the only difference is like it's in its own, local destination within the Orlando airport. So you have access to that and you have access to all the things with Orlando, but it's got our own design to it. It's got our own spin. And so it feels a little bit more comfortable sometimes. So when are we opening? I can't give you a specific answer. What I can tell you is it's going to be this summer. There's a handful of factors that come into play. So we'll be done with construction at the end of May. And then we have to go through a series of tests and a rigorous certification process with the Federal Railroad Administration. And so by going through that, we don't have control over all those factors. So I can't tell you it's going to be one date or the other. But once we complete construction and start doing those testing, that version of testing, we'll get more specific information. But the two things are this summer for sure, and tickets will go on sale next month. So, we're going to get close to knowing that date soon.
Okay. You guys heard that right here. Tickets go on sale next month. We're going to be able to go to Orlando and take the Brightline. I had just picked up a friend on Saturday that took the Brightline from West Palm down to Fort Lauderdale, and he got to Fort Lauderdale station quicker than I could drive from Pompano Beach down to Fort Lauderdale. So it's definitely taking that train is going to save you a heck of a lot of time from going into all the congestion on the 95 for sure.
Yeah.
Any idea how long it's going to take to get from Miami to Orlando if you wanted to take a straight run on the train?
Yeah, so we're going to have nonstop trains that are 2 hours and 59 minutes.
That's incredible.
That's incredible. And then we'll have regular trains that stop at all the other destinations. And so with those stops included, you'll still be able to get to Miami in less than 3.5 hours. you'll be able to get to Boca and West Palm Beach in just about 2 hours. So
Wow.
just a little over 2 hours. So it's going to be way more convenient. And like we said, it's productive.
Okay, fantastic. After Orlando opens, can you share with us any future initiatives for Brightline? Are you planning on taking over the sky or the waterways anytime soon?
Yeah, there's a lot of things, all rail related, but Tampa is obviously the next frontier in the state.
Okay.
It's the most logical city. It's one of the biggest metro areas in our state. Once we get to Tampa, 75% of the state of Florida will have access to a Brightline station.
That's amazing.
Which is amazing. And then we're looking at stations in the Treasure Coast as well as Brevard County region, the Space Coast area.
Okay.
So in Florida, that's what we're looking at. But we want to bring what we've built here in Florida to other parts of the country. And we're on pace to break ground between Las Vegas and the Los Angeles area, Southern California, this year. So that'll be a true high-speed rail project that'll get you between those two regions in 2 hours. Wow. Which, if you ever do that drive, it's 10 times worse than the 95.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Now, I've never done it myself, but I have heard that many, many times before. So you had mentioned we had the Brightline Community 101 a few weeks back, and you had mentioned that rail that's going to go from Las Vegas to Los Angeles is going to be all electric.
Yeah, so it'll actually go into a city called Rancho Cucamonga, which is just outside of LA. That'll be a fully electric train, zero emission, over 186 miles an hour, right down the middle of the highway. So It's a bit of a different build, but our business model is really, South Florida is unique with all these stations. And we recognized how unique the community is and how close it, all these metro areas are to each other.
Right.
But really our design is city pairs that are too short to fly and too far to drive. That's what we're all used to in Europe. And that's when we always say, like, I want what they have in Europe and Asia. Yeah. That's what it is.
Right.
And so that's really what our hope is, to connect these city pairs that are about 200 to 400 miles in distance.
Okay.
And that's our second market. And then, we see about 10 to 12 other markets in the country that we can do this with.
Okay. Maybe we can get a rail station at Burning Man.
Let's do it.
Okay. So tell us a little bit more about Brightline as far as the actual company. What's the company culture like? Is it I assume it's a great place to work, but what makes it a great place to work? And tell us a little bit about that company culture.
Yeah, one, we got great leadership with great vision. And I think anytime you're a part of something big, it's just more fun to be a part of. That's been my career experience. And so that's fun. What I love about it personally is I've been part of projects that you have to get on the phone and pitch and sell and try to get people interested in. This is not one of them. When we showcased our Orlando station last week, we had over 100 members of the media who paid attention. With 13 hours of live television coverage coming from that station. So internationally, nationally, and regionally, this is something that people are paying attention to. So that makes it fun, right?
Yeah,
it's just
huge.
fun.
Right.
So from a leadership standpoint, like, we got great leaders with a great vision. It's great. I also think one of the unique elements of what we're building is that we have our engineering and construction team. Then we have a team, a group of teammates who have been in the railroad industry for 15, 20, 30 years. And then you have a hospitality and transportation team. And then you have, kind of your, executive management team. And all of those are thrown into a pot, and we're creating this thing that is really kind of taken the region by storm in a good way. And so, like, you're getting all of these unique perspectives all put at one table that wouldn't fit anywhere else in the world.
Right.
And we're all sitting together, and it's fun to hear the railroaders think, and the hospitalities team think, and the engineering and the construction group that, how they see things. And so it's just an eclectic set of backgrounds that provides you just a variety of perspectives.
Yeah. And all the things that you guys are working on are so exciting. That just must be, you must have some awesome meetings to go in there and really get the team pumped up about, all of the new things that are coming out, the new news and the new successes that you've had. So congratulations on all that stuff.
No, I appreciate that. It's a lot of fun. And, we got one milestone after another through Orlando. So
Beautiful. Okay. So I know you are a busy guy. You need to get back to work. So we are going to follow up with one last question that I asked all my guests. And that is, share with us, if you can, a little Florida gem that may be something that most people don't know about. Obviously, I'm sure you've traveled the state far and wide with all of the things that you're doing with Brightline. So if there's anything that you've come across that you think is a must check out for the people who are listening, let us know about it.
Yeah, I'll give you two. One, I'm in Fort Lauderdale, so I live in downtown Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Take the train to Miami most days. We are fortunate to have just gotten a Mr. 01 Pizza, which came up from Miami. So now that's in downtown Fort Lauderdale.
Okay.
Incredible pizza. I think their slogan is extraordinary pizza.
Okay.
It's incredible. But there's a place in kind of hidden, outside of downtown Fort Lauderdale called Riverside Market. If you've never been there, it's amazing. So it's an old convenience store that's been stripped out into a bar restaurant. And they have every form of craft beer that you can imagine. And it's the honor system. You take whatever you want, and then you bring the bottles up at the end, and that's how they charge you. It's just a really cool environment, really fun place to be. So Riverside Market and Mr. 01, those are my gems. Okay,
fantastic. I'm going to check them both out, hopefully this weekend. All right, sir, thank you so much for your time today. And we will see you guys all soon on the next episode of RWorld Talk. Thanks for joining.
Thanks, Chris.